This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. This is Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. I'm so pleased that you've tuned in and are joining me on this call this week. This is a shorter program, but one that as I was putting it together, I found to be tremendously powerful. And as a matter of fact, that's what I made the title of it. It's called The Tremendous Power of Contentment. The Tremendous Power of Contentment. Now, this is on November 30th, just right on the cusp of going into the holiday month of December, and with Christmas and all the parties and events and celebrations and other holidays that we have. It's easy sometimes, and I've done this for many years, it's easy to get a little bit overwhelmed because there's a lot of expectations to attend things, gift giving, and sometimes I think, oh my goodness, can't we just all just be quiet a little bit and just be together, forget the gift giving and these things and just be content, because I'm often very aware of all the things I'd like or that other people would like that I just don't have the money to go buy them right now. And I think, boy, how valuable is contentment? And actually, I put this out. I put a post out on Facebook to ask for what topics people would like me to talk about it. And this is one that came up in a couple of different ways, is being happy with what you got and learning to be content and to slow down and just to value the time and the people around us more. So I thought I would talk about contentment. And there's a verse in the Bible that the Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Timothy that says, godliness with contentment is great gain. Now, if this was a live audience, I'd ask for a show of hands. How many people would like great gain? Now, anybody not want great gain? I'd like to talk to you afterwards and kind of come to understand why you don't want great gain. We all want great gain. We're all made to be more, have more, and do more. But this verse says what Paul is saying is that being like God, that's what godliness is like. And that means we have his mindset. We have his heart. His heart is always to build up, to give, to advance, to help, to move people forward and to even sacrifice for them. But, so that's godliness. So having that right heart towards other people to help build them up, and then being content with where we're at. And if that's a lot, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's in more humble circumstances for a given time, that's okay too. Paul would later say that I know how to abound and how to be abased, both of them. Neither's more valuable than the other. I know how to do them both. But here's the secret, is that I've learned in whatever state I am in to be content. To be content. Now, contentment means a state of happiness and satisfaction. And so many people are just running after money. If I just had a little bit more, someone was interviewing John D. Rockefeller one time and asked him, well, how much money does it take for a person to truly be happy? And he responded, just a little more than what he's got. And so many of us spend our lives chasing that just a little more than what, boy, if I just had a little more here, if I were just there, if I just had a vacation there, if I just had a house there, if I just had this, that, the other thing. And the list goes on, wearyingly on it goes. And like Rockefeller said, doesn't matter where you get. It's going to be just a little bit more that you think is going to make you happy. But some of the wisest and wealthiest people around have given us a different perspective. And they said that, more money doesn't make us more happy. It really doesn't. That's a false premise that many people have chased down to their own detriment, the detriment of their families, the detriment of relationships, the detriment sometimes of their own businesses. More money doesn't equal greater happiness. Now, it does create greater opportunities to do different things, greater choices, a greater ability to choose different things, but it doesn't make us happier. And Warren Buffett even said, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world, as most of you probably know. He said one time that, in an interview I listened to, that we really live similar lives to him, most of us. We eat similar food. We drive similar cars. He drives a car that I think is about 10 years old now. He wouldn't even let his daughter go buy him a new car. He just told her to go out and find a good deal on a used car. So he drives a car that's 8 to 10 years old and lives in the same house. I think he bought it back in the 1950s. And he said, hey, it's comfortable. It's enough for me. And here's the thing I learned a long time ago is I don't care how big your house is. You can only sit in one chair at a time. How many options do you need? We see these big, huge mega mansions and really it's like, yeah, that's pretty, but how many places can you be in at once, really? And how many options do you need to finally be happy? I think it's more of an ego thing than it is an actual, any kind of necessity. But that's the thing. More money doesn't make us happier. Contentment, being content with exactly where we are and who we are makes us happier. Now, let me clarify this. When I say contentment, I mean with our circumstances, not our personal development. Because we always want to be growing. Now, not discontent and like upset that we haven't grown more, but always continuing every day to grow, to improve, to learn something, to help better somebody else's life, to make this life worth living. If we're not getting better today, then if we're not better tomorrow than we are today, then what do we need today for? So we always want to be growing. So when I'm talking about contentment, I'm not saying just a complacent thing. Well, hey, I'm just the way I am and I'm never going to get better and I'm never going to improve and y'all just better learn to deal with it. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about with contentment is being content and happy in our circumstances, constantly bettering ourselves, which often leads to betterment of circumstances, but being content and okay where we are, being able to rest, to be still, to be quiet, and to be happy. So I want to give a couple of comparison contrast statements here between discontent people and content people. Discontent people, they're focused on what they want, but what they cannot have, right? That's where the focus, that's why they're discontent, because they want stuff they can't have or shouldn't have. Maybe that's where the credit card debt comes from. Content people are appreciatively focused on what they already have. And this is big. Somebody called me out on this just recently. I was thinking of all the stuff I want to develop and all the things I want to do. And they slowed me down and they said, hey, wait a minute. Look at how far you've already come. Don't get so caught up in the growth that you don't appreciate where you've already grown to. Appreciate that while you're growing forward. And my wife reminded me of it again today. To be appreciatively focused on what we already have. Now, discontent people are focused on what others have that they don't have. And this can lead to a lot of negative emotions. Oh my gosh, they've got this, they've got that, they've got the other thing. And I tell you, resentment and jealousy and envy can arise. Content people, on the other hand, are grateful for what they have and they're willing to share. Now, the first time that I ever encountered this in a very powerful way, I was about 18 years old and I'd gotten into bird watching. Some of you know my story. You know, I'm a birder. And I had gone with a local college professor and a couple of other people down to Mexico to look for some exotic birds down there. And we were in Veracruz on the coast in a marshy area. And we had our binoculars and our spotting scopes and cameras and all our fancy gringo stuff. And we were down there on the coast and there was this little hut. And I mean a hut. It was a little teeny hut, like falling apart. Like most of us wouldn't use it for a garage. And out of this hut came this little man, wrinkled man, older man, big smile, missing a lot of teeth. None of us spoke Spanish at the time, so we couldn't communicate with him. And he came out with this huge plate of food to offer us because he saw us there. And that's just what they do. And I was so touched by that as a young, and I was had all kinds of issues going on back then. But I tell you what, that made an impression on me, both for different cultures and just for what people can be. That food that man brought out probably cost him several days of wages. He didn't know who we were. He couldn't even ask who we were or what we were doing there. Why are you on my, no, it was none of that. It's like, hey, I see you and I value you. And here, I'm going to share with you what I have, even if it costs me. And I was very touched by that. That's what content people do. Discontent people, they often feel that their identity is tied to their possessions, tied to their portfolio, tied to their house, tied to all this other stuff and their status. And they tie their identity too closely to those things. Now, a content person, they use their possessions to reveal their identity. Even the man I just told you about down in Veracruz, he used the little bit of possessions he had, but how he used it revealed who he was, what type of person he was. Discontent people feel their identity are tied to their possessions. Content people use their possessions to reveal their identity. Okay? Discontent people, they're always so busy focusing on their desires and wants that it hinders their growth in the present. And that's a good little gauge there. If you're so focused on the things you want that you're actually not growing and developing, not spending time on that, then those things you want are a problem. Content people, they grow themselves in the present and therefore are better able to reach their desires with the right motives. Okay, you got that? The discontent person, they're so preoccupied with everything they want that they're not growing themselves. But growth is the key to having a better life. It's been said that the only guarantee of a better tomorrow is to grow today. But a content person, they grow in the present. They make that the first priority. And because they grow, they become wiser, more knowledgeable, more valuable to the people around them. That creates new opportunities and gives them the opportunity to gain more, but with the right motives and with the right heart, with a heart that wants to give, that wants to multiply, that wants to share. Discontent people hinder relational development with others because conquest and attainment is their goal. And they're so busy trying to attain, they're just running over people, running over relationships. I used to work with hospice, and one of the most common things for a person on hospice to say was, I wish I hadn't spent so much time working. I wish I had spent it with other people and getting to learn about them and know them and value them and have meaningful experiences and do meaningful things together. Discontent hinders relational development with others because conquest and attainment is the goal. But for content people, building themselves and others is the goal, and gain is the byproduct. So many of us find ourselves in tough times and we just don't have what we want. But if we get too fixed on what we want, we'll never develop inwardly. Sometimes those seasons come so that we can develop inwardly to become who we need to be, to work through motives, to work through character issues, to work through those things so that then when the success and when the resources and when the finances come in, we will use them in the right way because we become the right type of people. Discontent people, they have a very, very difficult time becoming settled or well-rested. They're just driven. They don't know how to actually stop and say, okay, I've done enough for today, and I'm in a good place, and I'm just going to rest now. Just going to take care of myself. They don't do a lot of self-care because they're always looking to what they want. And the content people, they're able to rest and be at peace in any situation. Just like the Apostle Paul, like we open with that. Know how to abound and how to be abased, but I've learned how to be content in whatever state I'm in. Doesn't mean I want to stay in that state, but it means I can be content there while I'm growing and looking for ways to continue to improve. Now, discontent people are rarely ever happy because they always need a little more. Just like I said, Rockefeller quoted, how much money does it take for a person to truly be happy? Just a little more than what they've got. Content people are happy because they enjoy what they have and those around them. They enjoy what they have. They can make you a gratitude list of all the things that they already have that they're very thankful for. That a lot of people in the world may not have those things. They don't take things for granted. And they enjoy those things they have, and they enjoy the people around them, and they're willing to share with the people around them. Now, here's another great benefit of contentment, and that is, now this comes from the Greater Good magazine published by UC Berkeley. And content people are the happy people, and they have better health as a result. They have several things. They have, number one, they have a better heart health. They have a better heart rate and lower blood pressure. Number two, they have better immunity. They get sick less than the discontent, unhappy people. Number three, their bodies are able to combat stress better. They just deal with it better. They have better resiliency. They also have fewer aches and pains. It's just a matter of fact. I don't know all of how that works, but somehow being happy, there's that verse that says a merry heart does good like a medicine. It's true. It actually helps treat aches and pains by being happy and being content. It also combats disease and disability.